What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Miss Azrael's Gaming. So today we're going to jump back into the Roottrees Are Dead with the second portion of RoottreeMania. As you can see here in the last episode, we were able to figure out the possible infidelity number 2, which was a miracle root tree. And we've got one of Guy Hudson's, which this one was actually proven true because they did a DNA test with David Fellows. And then we also had the family tree update was Stephanie Landon and her baby that they had just had. All right, so let's see. Let's go back. Let's see. I don't have any other photos. Let's go back and see, look at some information. Let's see. Did I look up her book? I don't think I did. Maybe we should do that. Because I cannot remember. So. Six pieces. 6 pieces. What was the full name of it? Unwrapping America's Sweetest Family. Either did I spell something wrong? M-A-D. I might spell her name wrong. What is it? M-A-D-S-E-N? No, I spelled that right. This is actually together. There we go. Okay, so they were added on my notes. I could not remember. Where did they get added to my notes at? This is it. Okay, you'd think I would have noticed that, but whatever. Let's see if there's anything in here. Let's check out Antonelli's. There are a large number of Antonelli's restaurants, not because it's a chain, just because it seems to be a common name for Italian restaurants. You may need to use a more local resource if you're looking for a specific one. Okay, so let's go to the Butler Times. Oh goodness, I'm not going to be able to spell that. Anton and Ellis. Antonelli's is an Italian restaurant and has been in Butler County times twice. The most recent time was when it closed in 1992. The owner, Rochelle Zimmer, sold the land the building was on, and at the time of the article, she was unsure if the restaurant would move to a new location or if she would retire. Many years before that, there's a puff piece from Valentine's Day 1978 that asked recently married residents of Butler County how they met. Christine Garland responded, she and her husband Steve, who was a chef at Antonelli's, met years ago when she delivered produce from her mother's farm. Steve used to work extra hours just to be there during her deliveries. I recognize that name. That's somebody who worked on the farm for the family. Although they grew apart when the restaurant switched suppliers, they reconnected by chance and eloped at the end of last year. Now she has a bun in the oven, and they're both working as much as they can. She's a secretary, but went back to delivering produce on weekends, trying to save up money to move to Boston and open their own restaurant. Okay, so she's a secretary. Yeah, so Christine Garland, which I did not mark the name. Let's mark that. her husband's name was Steve. He worked at the restaurant. Okay, so one of Sam's farm supervisors is named Elizabeth. So that's in quotation marks. Elizabeth had a daughter who Sam never met, but who worked as one of Guy's secretaries. According to Elizabeth, a caterer from a local restaurant in Antonelli's met her daughter at one of Guy's parties. And they quickly eloped due to pregnancy. That's not what this says. It says they met when she delivered produce from her mother's farm. Steve used to work extra hours just to be there during her deliveries. Although they grew apart when the restaurant switched suppliers, they reconnected by chance and eloped at the end of last year. Okay, so Elizabeth wasn't aware that the party was for swingers. Rumor has it that her daughter showed up with Guy and didn't seem comfortable switching partners. Okay, so trip overseas. Okay, let's try this Rochelle Zimmer in the Butler County Times. Rochelle and her husband, Mark Zimmer, have a few mentions in the Butler County Times. Both were local business owners. Rochelle owned Antonelli's, an Italian restaurant, and Mark owned a local bookstore called Bookmarks. Both closed in 1992. Mark was also mentioned once in Butler County Times when he was sued by Steve Garland. Steve... Yeah, so that was his name. So his name was Steve Garland. But why? Steve Garland is mentioned in a couple of articles. The first was an article about how he met his wife Christine when he worked at Antonelli's. The second is from months later. In September of 1978, a listing for his weekend cooking classes, Gourmet for the Groovy, the blurb mentions that he's giving lessons from his home kitchen for the last month so that he can keep an eye on his son. The third was from 1991 and is titled A Local Author Sued by Former Butler County Resident. It seems that a local author by the name of Mark Zimmer was sued by Garland and after Garland saw Zimmer promoting his book Kitchen Tales on television. His recipe book was partially plagiarized from the recipes that Steve Garland would give his students during his cooking lessons before he moved. The article mentions that although recipes are hard to copyright, Garland accompanied each recipe with a short fiction about how he learned it. These usually doubled as a way to remember certain ingredients. Garland's bean salad, for example, involved making a trade with a gnome for some magic beans. Apparently, these stories were found word for word in Zimmer's cookbook, in addition to additional stories that followed the same format. Let's see, Kitchen Tales. Okay, Kitchen Tales was a story-based recipe book credited to Mark Zimmer that had some success after it was featured on a morning talk show. The book released before the internet was widespread, so mentions are rare. One book collector states the publishers were unprepared for the demand and that there was no second printing, so it's unusual to find a copy in the wild. You find an alternative medicine website which focuses on cooking with natural ingredients and mentions that one of Kitchen Tales' recipes used salt water. The owner of the site has included a scan of the recipe, which was added to your evidence. She says, if you switch out the salt water in the recipe for a mix of 2/3 spring water and 1/3 filtered seawater, it tastes great. Okay, so Mark Zimmer, Kitchen Tales. No copies available, re-released as Garnishing the Truth. The entire description of this book, according to the library system, is a recipe book that contains stories. So, Garnishing the Truth. Okay, so nothing relevant. I did spell it right? Okay. Bookmarks. Did I searched this, right? I don't think there was anything in it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, The Pleated Loaf. So Kitchen Tales is a book that combines recipes and stories. It had mild popularity but seemed to disappear from online marketplaces in 1992. You found a scan of one story on the website. It demonstrates how to bake the pleated loaf. For years, two bakers, Flora and Yates, flirted. Flora and Yates flirted. They grew their friendship, compared recipes, and combined knowledge. She loved his salt and pepper beard. He adored her rosemary cheeks. They thought sweetly about one another, but he was one day whisked away, conscripted to bake the army's bread. By the oil of the lamp, Flora's tears began to salt her bread. The recipe asked the reader to combine flour, yeast, sugar, olive oil, and rosemary, combine the salt and water together, and add the mixture and whisk until the dough begins to form. It was 10 to 12 years later that they met again, seemingly by fate. Flora's unique dough had earned her position as the king's personal baker. Yates had found success as well. He baked for the kingdom's 45 diplomats. One day they returned from the Dutch Isles with a gift, 450 unbaked loaves, and were sent to the palace bakery to teach a method that required no kneading. Allow the dough to prove for 10 to 12 hours, then spread it out and let it sit for 45 minutes on a floured baking sheet with no kneading. Next, prepare a Dutch oven preheated to 450 degrees. Upon seeing Yates, Flora was both delighted and distraught. She felt as if she was torn in two. She had not been made aware of the gift and had already prepared buns for the palace ovens. She wished to greet Yates warmly, but was struck by fears that he'd be unable to bake with her, that she'd face retribution for being unprepared. She cried to Yates, adding more salt to her dough. Cut the dough into 2 equal pieces and lightly sprinkle salt across the top of only one of them. Yates eased her pain. He insisted she had no obligation to prepare for a return she thought impossible, but he shared her fear of retribution. He knew if they did not solve her predicament, they'd miss their final chance to bake together. In the end, instead of wallowing in the present, they worked together to shape the future. They twisted and entwined their doughs and baked them as one. Thus was born the pleated loaf. Word quickly spread of this new delight. The king's decree on royal parchment was that it would be considered a delicacy. Roll and twist the pieces to intertwine them, then take the twist and wrap around inside of the Dutch oven, atop parchment from outward inward to make a spiral. Bankrolled by the king, Flora and Yates spent their days baking together. They traveled for 45 years, then settled down for 15 more. Their souls were golden with no regrets. Lastly, bake for 45 minutes, remove lid, and observe until crust is golden brown, which could take up to 15 minutes. Okay, so I don't know how the frick this is a clue. The pleated loaf, possibly? It is not. Probably seems to disappear from online marketplace. I mean, it's just a recipe. I don't understand how that even is relevant unless there's like something in it. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I just don't see it. Let's try this. Okay, Garnishing the Truth is a cookbook credited to Garland and Zimmer. It was released in 1994. It was actually quite successful, and after the duo appeared to promote it on a daytime talk show, there have been multiple printing since. According to a book review, the recipes are accompanied by stories that help the reader remember the ingredients. The reviewer says that it seems perfect for learning to cook with the entire family. Okay, so maybe it's Garland and Zimmer. The introduction of this book is a series of acknowledgments from Steve. The first is, Christine, thank you for everything. Your support means the world to me. You are the apple of my pie. The second is to James and Robert. You've become amazing men and incredible chefs. I guess I'm a good teacher. The final is to Mark Zimmer. You proved my storytelling approach to recipes could be popular. Without you, this book couldn't exist. There's also a foreword by Mark Zimmer. I first met Steve in 1978 when he taught a cooking class. The next time I saw him was over a decade later when he was suing me for stealing his recipes. Yes, really. So you might wonder what I'm doing in this introduction. Well, it turns out that Steve and I had more in common than we thought. Instead of settling in court, we settled it at McCarran's Brew House over a game of darts. They said they'd give us the first drink of the night free for an entire year for mentioning them. By the end of the game, he and I agreed we'd both rather make a ton of money together than spend a ton of money on lawyers. It's pretty rare to meet your best friend so late in life, but when I decided to retire, I moved to Boston just so we could hang out. So if you're browsing this book in a bookstore, please buy our book. We need more money for the free beer runs out, and the bookstore could probably use the sale. Let's see if this is anything. Okay, so McCarran's Brew House is a pub in Boston, and they have a website. Apparently, the bar has been around a long time. On the sites, there's a list of famous people that have had a drink there, including former President of the United States, not of the Roottrees Company, Kennedy. There's also a few listing of television shows and books that have mentioned McCarran's, as well as how they came up. One of them is Garnishing the Truth, which the site has this to say about local and regular Stevie G. Wrote a book about food. He preferred cocktails, but he gave us a shout out, and we ain't gonna say no to free press. So go grab a bite at his kid's joint Friday, and then swing by to meet him for a drink. Okay, Friday is a fairly popular restaurant in Boston. They don't have a website, but many locals seem to mention them in various places. One in-depth review explains that it's not a full restaurant, just a front door and a very small interior with a window. Unusually, the restaurant only serves vegetables, but a lot of reviews say that in spite of that, it's delicious. You also find a short story about it listed on a website called My Boston Homepage. Whoever runs the page seems to just link to random sites related to Boston, tell personal anecdotes related to Boston, and give their relatively short opinions on things in Boston. It's very unorganized. It has this to say about Friday. Wicked overrated. I saw it in Chef's Signature, so I went there and there was a huge line, and they didn't have a single meat dish. What's even the point? I mean, I would agree with that. Okay, so My Boston Homepage is run by someone with eclectic taste. They claim to rate things on a scale from wicked awful to wicked wicked. The most recent thing to receive a wicked awful was an antique store called Bee's Things. Apparently, the owner, Beatrice, is not very friendly. The most recent establishment to receive a wicked wicked is a comic book store in Cambridge called the Million Year Picnic. As far as you can tell, nothing besides Friday seems to connect to your search anyway. Okay, I still don't get why that has anything to do with it. I saw it in Chef's Signature. Okay, Chef's Signature Magazine is a magazine related to food and trendy restaurants that covers subjects all over the United States. Okay, so that got us something, but I don't see really where it even helps us. Okay, so Chef's Signature. Let's see. In the, oh, garbage. Where was... I know what it is. It was in Garnishing the Truth. It's his son's names. James and Robert. Okay, Chef's Signature cover Friday less than a year ago, right around the time you were doing your initial investigation. Each article in Chef's Signatures tends to focus on a restaurant, and like the magazine names implies, each restaurant lists the one main dish that the head chef is known for. Friday's signature is the samosa cone. The cover and main article has been added to your evidence. The frick is a samosa cone? Ethan's loaf. Oops, spelled loaf wrong. Okay, nothing there. Just wanted to check. Okay, so we have the 2 pictures for the sons. So, Chef's Signature, a national publicized magazine targeted towards fans of unusual restaurants, featured James and Robert Garland on the cover of their November 1998 issue. According to the article, the 2 brothers own a small walk-up window in Boston called Friday, a play on the tie-dyed shirts that the servers wear, that exclusively serves vegetarian dishes. Most of the offerings are heavily inspired by the powerful spices found in Thai and Indian food. Their signature dish is the samosa cone, which, from a distance, somewhat resembles a traditional ice cream, complete with waffle pattern. Instead, it contains fried potatoes, pureed peas, carrots, and a special ginger-based sauce. I mean, honestly, that sounds pretty good, but I still couldn't just eat at a vegetarian place. I need meat. That's like a side dish for me. Robert, who is 3 years younger than James, jokes that although the age difference has left him delegated to wear the sous chef jacket his whole life, he doesn't mind. As a result, James answers most of the interviewer's questions. James credits his love for food and his culinary skills to their upbringing. Most kids hate vegetables growing up, but they don't have parents like we did. My father was a chef, and my mother grew up on a farm that supplied his restaurant. That's how they met. I don't have any memories from the farm or anything like that since we moved here before I could even talk, but they told me stories. My dad's a great storyteller. He even wrote a book that partially helped fund Friday. When we moved, they were looking to open their own restaurant together. Unfortunately, they never got it off the ground. His line cook gig ended up being less temporary than he hoped, and she had to go back to work as a secretary even after Robert was born. Before we were old enough to go to school, we spent our days with my aunt. In the diner where we worked, my dad had no room for experimenting, so he'd exercise his skills at home on his days off. We'd always go shopping and cook as a family on those days, and even though we were hyper kids running around and causing a ruckus, those were some of our family's favorite memories since we were all together. Mom always had the eye for the best vegetables for him to work with, and she did her best to pass that on to us. According to the article, their parents, who are now retired, visit Friday often. They even have a signature dessert, the Sistine apple. Apple pie has always been my mom's favorite, and my dad always had this stupid line he used to make her laugh involving apple pie. Most people realize it's a Sistine Chapel pun and assume that's all there is to it, but it's actually secretly named after them, sort of. The Sistine apple. Interesting. Other than getting us the order of the kids, I still don't know where the frick this helps. Would she be considered the next affair? I really don't know. I have no clue what affair she is. I'm assuming she's the second one. Oh crap, what was her name? Christine. It was the first name. Garland would have been the married name. Christine Farrow. Stephen. Crap, I think I passed it. Garland. I mean, they're retired now. But I guess she was a farmer. Work as a secretary. Okay, so she was actually a secretary. Okay, so who's Robert, who is 3 years younger than James. So Robert is the young one. His chef jacket his whole life. He doesn't remind. As a result, James answers most of the interviewer's questions. Although, how the frick am I supposed to tell who's who? Sous chef jacket. I mean, they're not really in chef's gear, so I don't know how I'm supposed to tell who's who. I also still need a picture of their mom. I'm assuming this one's Robert, though. That's what I'm leaning towards, so we'll say this. And they are chefs. Now, is there a sous chef? Or just chef? I just want to make sure. Okay, so they would both be chefs, like they're, because that's what their dad was. So they would be chefs. Let's see. So now I need a picture of their mom. I have yet to find that. I don't know if it's possible to get a photo of her. I mean, I know we'll have to have one, but... Okay, let's see if we can find... This is what I was trying to figure out earlier. This still has 8 clues attached to it. Yeah, did I search her in this? I did, didn't I? Oh, what's her stupid name? I'm positive I did, because I think that's how I got this. But let's double check. Sanchez. That name came up once before, didn't it? Yeah. Okay, so that's where I got the missing pages there. So, I mean, this might lead to this one, possibly? Infidelity. This person was never married, though. But I think I need the pictures. That's what it is. So we have to figure out how to get the pictures for that one. Okay, I had to go look back at my other videos because I could not remember for the life of me what his name was. But it was Thomas... I knew it was Thomas, but it was Overwood. Yeah, because see, here's the older one, Carl and Brenda. Yeah, it was with their death. That's what it was. Okay, so during your initial search, you come across Thomas Overwood's conspiracy page about the Roottrees. 8 months later, the page still exists and is thriving. The visitor count has reached 7 digits. Many older articles have been replaced. It seems that the recent uprising in the Roottrees news has left Thomas Overwood with a constant stream of events to base new theories on. More than one of his theories involve Roottree deaths being faked. According to Overwood, statistically, when you have this many high-profile people who have died in a family, the odds are that one of them faked their death. It's just math. This newfound focus on death faking seems to coincide with a post mentioning that he's begun believing the guy's not dead theory. In his own words, my eyes have been opened. All of this is beginning to make too much sense. One of his posts details the belief that Ron Roottree is still in charge. Gwen Roottree's death was faked, and that Clark is the only there to throw people off. Apparently, this allowed Ron to travel to France to develop their new candy recipe in secret. Another is about the rapper Five Pez. He can't possibly be a Roottree. One of his first album songs, when he was performing under the devil named, actually mentioned that he wanted to have sex with Rihanna. Not even Sam Madsen is spared. According to Overwood, the author of Six Pieces isn't real. Sam Madsen is an algorithm for Am Madness. They're purposely leaving hints for us. He claims that by using Six Pieces with Lauren Roottree's book has a one-time pad. He has begun to decrypt the cipher. Most of the cipher has seemed meaningless, but he managed to pick out the words people and vastness, and is working on figuring out what it means. There's also a request at the bottom. Next year, 2000 is a leap year, and Overwood is looking for funds and volunteers to catch the Roottrees red-handed in Operation RT29. He specifically mentions not to volunteer if you've ever drunk Spirit Cola, but doesn't go into why. Yeah, because we talked about Spirit Cola too. We looked at that one. Okay, so you find more conspiracy websites. People seem the Roottrees. Some people out there claim that the Roottrees are changing the candy recipe to include more and more chemicals, and this was done in cooperation with bad actors from an unknown government. They claim that due to a loophole in the calendar, it is possible to get away with nearly any crime on a leap day, so long as it isn't discovered until after the day is over. And that every 4 years on a leap year, the Roottree company hosts a meeting with foreign agents who conspire to poison our children. The proof is that Roottree candies contain polyglycerol, polyricinoreate, an ingredient of the candy that wasn't there when it first released. They claim it is added to it in an attempt to addict people and eventually induce mind control. The website claims to sell pills that counteract this effect for children that have already eaten Roottree candy in the past. You do an additional search for polyglyceride polysorate, and it seems to be an immune cipher in chocolates approved by the FDA and widely used across in many products. Let's see, Spirit Cola. Spirit Cola is a carbonated drink only found in the southern U.S. It comes in various flavors, including lemon, lime, and cherry. None of this seems to have anything to do with the Roottrees. Okay, so Guy's Not Dead. Okay, the Guy's Not Dead conspiracy stems from a website that focuses on clues that the Roottrees have supposedly hid all over the place. This includes on candy wrappers and print advertisements and television commercials and their jingles, etc. The story, according to the website, is that Guy Hudson was a terrible president of the Roottree company and introduced multiple failed products. Something needed to be done that would put the company immediately and instantly back in the favor of consumers. So they killed off Guy Hudson and replaced him with a new president. This move immediately garnered sympathy, and the company recovered the next year, more popular than ever. The next president stayed much further out of the limelight, and some people even theorized that he was simply Guy Hudson in an elaborate disguise, which is why he stopped appearing in public. The people who run the site are asking for help. They're certain that there's clues to all of this that accidentally leaked in a banner article from the magazine Picote. On their page is a scan of the magazine's cover, the interview with Celsi Sanchez about Guy Hudson, and some photos. You add them to your evidence. There we go. That is what we needed. Hopefully there's nothing else here. Okay, so this is the interview with Cicely Sanchez, an author. She's hired to write a book about Guy Hudson. You claim to have been paid a significant amount to write a book about one of Roottree's Guy Hudson. He was president for a short period at the end of 1970s, right? Yeah, I met him on New Year's Eve, actually, the last night of 1978. Guy liked to throw big parties. I was just coming off of A Changed Man and looking for my next project. When his wife learned who I was, she invited me to the party and they cornered me to talk about a book. That was the first time anyone recognized me for my work. I'd finally made it. The book they asked me to write sounded great, but then none of the stuff that made him interesting was allowed to stay. Chop, chop, snip, snip. Anything with even the slightest threat to Guy's image ended up go zone. Okay, so what was the stuff that made him interesting? At his core, Guy was not complicated. In fact, I think I could boil him down to 2 traits. First, he wanted to be seen as the second coming of the great Elias Rootree. And second, he'd never been satisfied living the life needed to be seen that way. He had his fortune and good looks, and he really liked to exploit that to pick up women. But he couldn't let anyone else know, so it cost him a lot to cover it up. That was the only interesting aspect of Guy. He was James Bond trying to convince people he was Mr. Rogers, I guess. Mr. Rogers, really? Maybe that's not the best metaphor, but Elias Rootree was boring as hell and all about family. Guy did everything he could to be seen that way. After I submitted my first draft, he sent me this garbage book, The Rootree Legacy, with Elias on the cover. The last time he and I met, he had even switched out his orange suits for the same green ones Elias wore. And remember fancy flavors? Guy knew that part of Eli's legacy was the 5-piece flavors, so that's what Guy tried to do. Caviar was a disaster here, but it was actually somewhat popular in Brazil for whatever reason. In Christmas of 1979, he went to Brazil to open the Rootree Brazil factory. Guy was always hopping around the world, trying to recreate that success. So how come the book never came out? It's complicated. I had an out in my contract. Surprisingly, Guy signed the contract my lawyers wrote without running it by any in his legal department. I could pull my name off the book at any time, but Guy still got the content. After I left, it probably got a lot harder to convince any real publisher to give it their time. The interview continues on the next page. He was the president, right? Do you know why he never released it himself? If I had to guess, his family very wisely put a stop to it. Mid-1981, months after I had already moved on, he called me back and showed me a final draft. Do you know how expensive it is to publish one copy of a book? It had my name on it in big shiny embossed letters. Like all problems in his life, throwing money at me was his attempt to win me back. But it had half the page count and the narrative was torn to bits. No thanks. The dinner was good. Imported steak that likely cost much as a month of my mortgage, and we all got pretty drunk. He sent his mistress, Susie something, into the bathroom to proposition me. Poor girl, I remember her from our trips overseas. She was too good for him. Anyways, he died soon after. That was the last it ever came up. Okay, so Susie might have been the last one, so let's highlight that. What can you tell us about the family? Any insight into the scandals from the recent book by Sam Madsen? I actually haven't read it. I just skimmed the section on Guy to see why people were suddenly calling me up to ask about the man. I'd say she did well for what she had to work with. She only had rumors, whereas I spent time tailing him. Sometimes he knew, sometimes he didn't. He invited me to join them when dealing with Rootree Brazil, but I actually had people on him when he went to Australia, France, and China too. When he met with someone, I'd figure out who they were and how they were involved. Doubly so if the meeting happened when he didn't want me to be around. Despite his best efforts, I got the whole truth, including things even his family never knew. For example, the daughter of his business partner in Australia, I think her name was Robin, he and she definitely spent a few nights together that he didn't want his family to know about, but I did. Okay, so let's highlight Robin. We got another one there. Madsen got things wrong. Sam mentions Guy's affair and treats them like most people would logically think to treat them. Like the infidelity was a problem for Patricia. When his wife first approached me, though, it wasn't to talk, if you get my meaning. On paper and in public, it was a marriage like any other, but in reality, it was more of a mutually beneficial arrangement. They both got what they wanted out of it. The same thing. What was that? I am assuming I only have to spell it out so you can get it in writing for your readers. Women. Patricia enjoyed the company of women, and the swinger scene made that more accessible. I told her I wasn't interested in her and Guy. I found out later that if I had said yes, her next question would have been whether or not her husband actually had to be there too. Guy, on the other hand, was in a traditional marriage and at the same time could bed any woman that he found charming. I can assure you that was exactly the type of marriage he was interested in. Okay, so they basically just had an open one and obviously weren't interested in each other. So it was more of a marriage of convenience. Probably why they never had children. Probably a good thing they didn't. Oh, who's this back here? I don't like the red hair with the orange suit. This is probably the restaurant, but we'll see here. So this photo is the first from a magazine interview with Cicely Sanchez and Picto-Tea. The issue of Picto-Tea magazine that it came from was pulled from the shelves, but you managed to find it online. Picto-Tea does not label its individual photos. Both photos were instead under the shared label. Cicely was provided these photos by the Roottree company for use in her book. In the background of the photo, there is a Christmas tree. Okay, yeah, because that helps, because, who cares about the person here? Ah, that's his cousin. There's Granddad. I wonder who that is. This is the first from a magazine interview with Cicely Sanchez and Picto-Tea. The issue of Picto-Tea magazine that came from this was pulled from the shelves, which you may find online. Picto-Tea does not label its individual photos. Both photos were instead under the shared label. Cicely was provided these photos by the Roottree company for use in her book. I wonder if I can put that one photo that I just got of Zach in there. This is the worst photo of him. It doesn't even look like him, to be honest. That's actually probably not her, to be honest. It's probably this one here, because that's why there's a spouse picture. Okay, well, we got some information there. Not sure what exactly helped. But we finally found those missing pages. That just took a while. And like I said, I had to go back to my videos to check out the conspiracy thing, because I could not remember what the person's name was. And the only way I was going to remember that would be if I got it from my past video. So definitely needed that. All right. There's a tattoo right there. That's actually probably Christine Garland. That would be my guess. Dang, I need one more. I need one more to get my 4. All right. Okay, so I think that's correct. Do we have any extra? What photos do we have? Okay, those ones haven't been tied in just yet. Still have to work on the first one as well. All right, so let's see here. See if there's anything. Let's check out Roottree Brazil. See if something comes out with that. Okay, so Roottree Brazil, sometimes erroneously referred to as Roottree Brazil, or Brazil, sometimes erroneously referred to as Roottree Brazil, is one of the companies created, manufacture, and distribute Roottree candy. It was developed as part of the Roottree Everywhere initiative near the beginning of 1979. Okay, unlike some of the other Roottree Everywhere results, Roottree Brazil seems to be a success. You do some tough translating and find a significant amount of information about it. So Brazil is the only region in which caviar-flavored 5 pieces released at the end of 1978 were a hit. The primary reason that the factory still exists to this day is solely to create that flavor, which comes in its own standable 5-piece bag with Portuguese writing. A small town named Alavalagos, near the municipality of São Bernardo do Campo, became the location chosen by the Roottree Candy Company after a newly elected politician named Edson Soares heard that they were planning a new factory and petitioned them in early 1979. The factory was controversial as locals did not want it there. The Roottrees visited Brazil around Christmas and managed to break ground on the project. Since then, however, it has been operating relatively smoothly, except for 2 incidents. The first was Incendio do Bardo in 1892, and the second was an unsuccessful strike in 1995 that involved all the factory workers being replaced. The factory was originally built and run, according to paperwork at the time, by a small company called Nova Coropo. I'm sorry, I do not speak Spanish. Coporocao de Doces, Brazil, which literally translates to New Brazil Candy Corporation. This company no longer exists. Not much information has ever existed about it, and the Roottrees now run Roottree Brazil entirely. Let's see if something different comes up under that. Okay, Roottree Brazil. Okay, so it is the same thing. Let's see. Let's look up the incident here. Incendio do Bordeaux translate to maple fire. In 1982, the factory was deliberately attacked in a case of clear arson. The fire was brought under control after destroying about 2/3 of the production floor, and locals claimed that the air smelled like a mix of burning plastic and maple syrup. The factory was rebuilt and continues production to this day. At the time, it was unknown why this happened, but last year, a news special did list this incident, as well as a few others in the small town, as backlash to perceived corruption in the government at the time. According to the report, the mayor of the city was found to be receiving a cut of factory profits. Okay, let's look up Roottree Everywhere. Roottree Everywhere was an expansion in the late 1970s. It coincided with some other large changes at the company and had mixed success. As far as you can tell, the different companies related to it were all formed in very different and sometimes haphazard ways. There's minimal organized information about the history of the expansion itself online, but you can glean the following. Roottree candy had been distributed globally to certain markets approved by Elias as early as 1940s. This included places like Canada, Mexico, and select countries in Europe, mostly the UK. Roottree Everywhere involved Roottree expansion to other major markets that were assessed to be ready for Roottree. This started with 4 that it had no share in: Australia, Brazil, China, and France. Okay, well, that explains why you made all those trips there. Each of the countries had an entirely new company formed, mostly by making deals with local distributors and manufacturers. So Roottree Aus, Roottree Brazil, China Roottree, and Roottree France. So let's see, we looked up this one. Roottree Aus is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottree candy. It was developed as part of the Roottree Everywhere initiative in summer of 1979. According to a history website for Roottree Aus, Charles Martin, who owned a company that manufactured licorice in Australia, was tapped to run the Roottree factory after he impressed the American leadership of Roottree Candy Company at the time. Roottree Aus did have some success, but only in certain regions. The manufacturing leg of the company shuttered in 1992 after the death of Martin, and Roottree Aus now serves as an importer and distributor. Where's Martin? My goodness, there's so many rabbit holes you can go down. It's like not even funny. Charles Martin was a candy manufacturer in Australia born in 1923. He had a popular brand of licorice called Martin's Licorice Bullets. Most of his history is unrelated to the Rootrees. However, in 1979, he helped to develop the Roottree House. He used his own wealth to build a new factory and then distributed the maple treats through the same methods he had already been using for previous candy venture. A website about Australian commerce mentioned that he had a very unusual business agreement with the main Roottree company in the U.S. Much like how the Clance Trust distributed the profits from the Roottree company openly to the Roottree family, the profits of the Roottree House would be split 50-50 between the American Roottree company and Martin himself, for him to do with what he wishes. This made Martin very, very wealthy, but also led to many cost-cutting measures meant to increase profits as much as possible, especially towards the end of Martin's life in early 1990s. Roottree candy gained a poor reputation in Australia, and sales suffered immensely. Charles' vast fortune was passed along to his daughter, Robin Martin, who sold both businesses at first opportunity. Robin Martin is featured in many of the top 100 wealthiest women in the world's list. She owns a private island off the coast of Australia where she reportedly has her own executive retreat. She has no husband, and there was a widely circulated rumor somewhere in the mid-70s that she had a medical procedure to ensure she would never have children. You find a joke on a site called Edgy Jokes that implies she's quite promiscuous and has a punchline involving Robin's eggs. For what it's worth, Martin seemed to lean into the rumors. In the 80s, she once showed up at a charity function with 3 very attractive men, each wearing a shirt that simply said "satisfied partner" on it. Okay, I don't think that has anything to do with it. You never know, though. Okay, Roottree, China. China Roottrees is one of the companies created to manufacture and distribute Roottree candy. It was developed as part of the Roottree Everywhere initiative in the summer of 1979. During the late 70s, China began to go through a period of economic reform. This led to new opportunities for American companies, and the Roottree candy company decided to pounce. Lang Hongbo, who was said to personally win over the Roottree family and was the owner of multiple textile factories, did not wish to import the ingredients and build a special factory to manufacture the candy in China. So instead, they made a deal to import bulk, unpackaged Roottree candy and label it for not only China, but additional markets. Hongbo, who was already in his mid-50s when the deal happened, only had daughters, and his brother Lang Hongyo took control upon his death in 1986. After Hongyo died in 1992, he was passed the oldest child from the generation, Lang Jiyu. Probably pronounced those horribly wrong. But let's see here. Okay, you come across a website for Lang Tai Textile Corporation, which is a company that has helped expand Roottree's productions to China since the 1970s. The company seems very accomplished. Their site has quotes from many different reporters and news articles listed on it. In nearly every language, it also mentions quite often on websites about Chinese businesses. But those mentions are company-focused and not people-focused and don't offer any information useful to your investigation. Their page contains a very rudimentary leadership timeline from names that prove that the company had been in the Lang family for a long time. It kind of looks like a family tree. It goes back at least 250 years in some form or another. During the period where they began the Roottree deal, Lang Hongbo, in China, the family name comes first, so Lang is his last name, was the CEO. He died before the internet was widespread, so he's not much out. So there's not much out there on him other than his name on websites. His younger brother, Lang Hongyo, is featured on the history section directly following him. This also seems to be only a mention of the man. Excuse me. The current CEO is a woman listed as simply Ying Yu. The site doesn't list her last name, though she appears in the family tree below Hongbo. Okay, so that's the same. So there's nothing for the brother, it looks like, during the period of... Not much other than his younger brother. The current CEO is one. Okay, it says Lang Tai has a few American logos on its page. One is a Roottree logo, another is a Trinquilts, and the third is a piece of Asia. Does this have anything? I doubt this has anything to do with it. Okay, so that's about cloth. Okay, so this one says Piece of Asia is the American arm of Lang Tai located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. According to the site, the Tai in Lang Tai translate to peaceful, so they chose their name in America to match. There are a lot of other companies listed here too. Too many to investigate, as very few of them seem to have any relevance. It seems Piece of Asia is nearly as accomplished as Lang Tai. They offer fabrics and cloth that hold prices. You don't spot anything out of the ordinary. The business is said to be owned by husband and wife Jerry and Linda Han. Their Chinese names are listed too, and from using an online translator, it seems that Jerry is Han Jinwu and Linda is Lang Yinyao. That she's mentioned right there. Okay, so I don't see anything specifically on her, so maybe she, has nothing to do with it. Okay, Roottree in France is one of the companies created, manufacture, and distribute Roottree candy. It was developed as part of the Roottree Everywhere initiative in the summer of 1979. Apparently, Roottree France was a non-starter. Negotiations broke down pretty late in the process after the company had already been formed, and then the leadership of Roottree went through a very large change soon after. The CEO of Roottree France was meant to be Tristan Robert. Okay, Tristan Robert is a businessman who at one time was in negotiations to take over Roottree France. He's still alive, and you come across an interview unrelated to the Roottree from a few months ago. It seems that other countries have not been immune to RoottreeMania. As you recognize the word Roottree in one of the questions, it seems the interviewer snuck in a question about his experience with the company at the end of the 70s. The article is in French and takes some time to translate sections by section. He mentions Guy by first name only, and the tale he tells is quite ugly. The translation is as follows. Guy, the president of Roottree, was one of the worst men I've ever met. He approached my wife about having an affair, which she refused. He then kept insisting that this was the best way to celebrate the end of our business contract. I don't think he expected her to say no, and I don't think he thought she would tell me what happened. I punched him in the face and refused to attend another meeting with this man. They lost a lot of money on this deal because not only was he a terrible person, but he was also a terrible businessman. When he died shortly after, it felt like the universe was working things out. I wasn't surprised to learn he had a secret child. He seemed to treat women like collectible pocket monsters. It seems mentioning Pokemon sidetracks the question a bit, and the interviewer never returns to the subject of Roottree. Okay, so that's interesting. Got something very interesting out of that one. Let's see, is there anything else that stands out? Let's see, let me go back to the Roottree everywhere real quick. See if we have anything here. Well, how about this one? Edson Soares. Edson Soares was a Brazilian politician. You find a dissertation published by a college student as part of their PhD in history. It focuses on the rise of democracy in Brazil. It seems up until 1988, Brazil was run by the military, and the politics during that time were often a hotbed for corruption and nepotism. The paper tells of a few politicians at the time, including Edson Soares. Edson is a former mayor of Alvalagos, Brazil. Before politics, he was a manager at an automotive manufacturing plant for a major American car company. He was put in charge of Alvalagos by the military government in 1973. As mayor, he used his manufacturing background and knowledge of American businesses to establish new factories, distributing plants and other businesses ventures in the area. This had two side effects. First, he became quite rich. Second, many locals were forcibly relocated. This did not make him a popular mayor. And what the papers speculate was a move to counteract his unpopularity. His wife, Sonia, was discreetly put in charge of a television station called Telerita. He often used this connection to ensure supporters would appear on local television, spouting his beliefs and emphasizing his political victories. He remained in office until 1988, when he was defeated in the first election after the military government was no longer in control. After this election loss, he quickly left town behind. It is not known where he's gone, but the dissertation even speculates he likely fled to stay alive. Let's see if Telerita has something. Okay, Telerita is a former television station in Brazil. It came into being in 1970 after a vacuum was created due to the removal of a different network at the hands of the Brazilian military dictatorship. Due to lack of resources online, you don't have much to go on about who ran it and when. Although it was brought up that his wife was put in charge of it, so I guess that didn't have anything. Let's see. We have his wife's name. So let's try Sonia. See, how's that spelled? Sonia. Oop. Okay, there does not seem to be anyone relevant by the name of Sonia Soares located anywhere online. However, Spiderfinder does return a page that lists a news anchor in Brazil named Flavio Soares, who has a mother named Sonia. Well, what the hell does... Okay. Flavio Soares is a young Brazilian newscaster with a bit of a cult following. The discourse surrounding him is, to put it in polite terms, lewd. There's a website about something called fanfiction that is a small section dedicated to him. It seems that women and some men of a wide variety of ages and writing skill tend to find him worthy of inclusion in their stories. You skim some of the tales there and learn that a common thread is that he's currently dating a supermodel named Ashley York. Many stories either seem to ignore her existence or get her out of the picture rather quickly. There are also other more traditional fan sites that list some things about him, including his age, 18, his zodiac sign, Libra, his favorite food, grilled steak, and his mother's name, Sonia. Also, it seems that Falvio, translated to a golden-haired, one website with a signed publicity photo of Fabio seems to confirm this. The video has been sent to your evidence. Let's look up Ashley York. Ashley York is a British supermodel who does ads for perfume, clothing, and jewelry. She's been the subject of some controversy in the past few months, having been protested by PETA for wearing fur on the cover of some magazines. She's dating a young Brazilian news anchor named Fabio Soares, which has brought them both somewhat into the limelight. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Oh, that dude's definitely his son. Fabio Soares is a Brazilian news anchor. This is a signed photo of him to a fan you found online. To Natasha, kisses from Brazil, Fabio. Oh, dude, that's totally his son. Okay, so it's probably this one. That's where I'm guessing, but I don't have her maiden name, and usually they want the maiden name in there. Okay, he's 18. Let's do a, where is it, that Teen Blast? Okay, so his name's Flavio. How's his last name spelled? Okay, Soares. Okay. Okay, Ashley York, a British model, appeared on the cover of Teen Blast wearing a first shawl 3 months ago. This appearance doesn't lead to any useful information, but another more recent appearance in the text only mentions she's dating Flavio Soares. In it, a Teen Blast reporter asked how they met. I was in Rio for Carnival, and he was on one of the parade floats. I had no idea who he was, but I liked what I saw and told my people to invite him to the party I was going to. I felt pretty stupid once I realized that we were going to his party. Well, his mother's party. She runs a media empire down there called Transmissio Apollo. It's probably going to lead us to her name. Transmissio Apollo is a massive media group owned and run by the mysterious woman named Sonia Alves. It seems Sonia Alves is a common name in Brazil, so she has shortened her name to Nia to stand out in the public eye. According to a history page that's focused on her company and vague, unsearchable details, Nia received a significant inheritance in 1980 and invested in it many different manufacturing businesses. In her hometown in Brazil at the same time, she'd just begun to learn the ins and outs of running a television network. She continued to work in television until 1988, when Brazil began its period of reform. She felt this was the perfect opportunity to launch her own media company using her investment and connections. Now her company owns television networks, magazines, newspapers, and advertising firms. After doing some translating, the page about Nia lists her as unmarried. It does not go into any other relationship history. Searching for Nia online, you learn that she stays out of the spotlight. She doesn't even appear at a shareholders meeting. She sends a proxy. It's Portuguese for no relevant search. It seems Sonia Alvarez's common name. So let's look up Nia Alves. See if anything else comes up. Okay, nothing there. Okay, let's look up, see if there's something about just Ashley York that garners any more information. Nope, so that basically went. Okay, so it says that she's not in a relationship, but that doesn't mean that they didn't get a divorce. I still think it's her. Okay, so her name is Nia Alves. Don't know if it would be under Nia or if we should put it under Sonia. And she is a media mogul. Oh, that was right. Didn't even do her son yet, or her ex-husband. Booyah. Yeah, we don't know his name. Is it Flovio Stores? What does he do for a living? Oh, he's a news anchor, isn't he? Well, this guy's probably named Suarez. Oh crap! Well, it is Suarez, but not Suarez. It's Shoot, how did we get all the way to that? Yeah, Edson. Okay, so we have all that down. Now we know that those two are correct, even though we can't finish them right now. But we do know that that's Edson Suarez and Falvio. So we need this one, and then we're going to work on the dads at some point. Because I still haven't gotten a picture of him just yet. So I'm not sure what his where I'm supposed to get his picture. I guess maybe just look him up again. I mean, that could be possible. Okay, so let's see here. So I want to go back to this because I think this means something. Jerry and Linda Hahn. Okay, Jerry, Linda, and Mark Hahn appeared recently on a website called Focus on Philanthropy under the headline Hangin' with the Hans. The Hans were chosen because they donated significantly to causes that further Chinese American culture. Jerry and Linda were both born in China and fell in love during college. Linda's father led a large company. This article never names it. After expanded to the U.S., Linda's father approved their marriage so long as Jerry took over the U.S. portion of the business. Linda jokes that the entire situation is like something out of an Alanis Morissette song with how ironic it all ended up. I was absolutely terrified to move to the United States, but my big sister was desperately in love with the idea. She used to have this Butch Cassidy poster on her walls and was obsessed with Robert Redford. But somehow Jerry and I were the ones sent here, and now we couldn't possibly imagine going back. When we had Mark, we never even considered giving him a traditional name. Meanwhile, my sister stayed in China and has thrived there. She doesn't even like visiting the U.S. anymore. Our kids are complete opposite, though. Mark couldn't wait to travel abroad as soon as he's old enough. He's actually in business school in China now, working with my sister. Our niece, who grew up there, was the opposite. She couldn't wait to get here. She started calling herself Lucy Lang in high school and flew out here as soon as she graduated. The name change apparently drove my sister absolutely loco. Okay, so Lucy Lang is not exactly a common name, but it's not the most uncommon you've come across either. There are a few that come up with any searchable details, so it might be possible to narrow down your possibilities. A Lucy Lang is mentioned on a robotics website as part of Team Talon-Claw. Team Talon-Claw are one of only 2 teams from the U.S. participating on a new robot-based show in the U.K. Another Lucy Lang is part of a small women's a cappella group in Los Angeles called the Tonics. A third Lucy Lang works in New York for a business called Corporate Synergetic Solutions Unlimited. I feel like maybe that's... Okay, Corporate Synergetic Solutions Unlimited is a company located in New York City. Lucy Lang is a lead synergy engineer who is listed as being ranked one of the top facilitators in the world by Business Watch magazine. As far as you can tell, CSSU is a company that other companies hire as consultants to increase productivity. It's unclear the exact services they provide. The site is light on details. There are a few high-profile companies listed on their site as former clients. You recognize their names, but none of them are related to your current investigations. Okay, so this might not be the one then. Let's try Team Talon-Claw then. Okay, Team Talon-Claw is the robotic club of Mid-Eastern University. The robot, also named Talon-Claw, has been selected for appearance on the 2nd season of a British television show focused on robot fighting. A small blurb mentions that robot fighting leagues have existed for a few years, but there have been recent moves to televise it. Talon-Claw was one of the few teams selected from the U.S. The robotics club has a text-only site you can find linked from the university's student section. The site seems like it's used mostly to announce the schedule to its members. The club is supposed to meet every Tuesday and Thursday, but the last 8 dates have all been canceled because a few members of the team are currently in the UK filming. Another date from a few weeks back was canceled for an interview with the school's newspaper. At the bottom, the traveling members of Talon-Claw are listed as Team Captain Jaya Patel and supporting members Lucy Lang and Kurt Hauser. Lucy Lang's probably his daughter. Okay, so maybe... I don't know what it would be under. I don't know if we would search... I don't know if we would search. Let's look at Mid-Eastern University. I don't think I ever searched that. Mid-Eastern University is a notable private college that advertises itself as midway between Maine and Miami. Their mascot is the Spectres, though they are not known for their sports programs such as their education. Their legal and language departments are the pride and joy, though they also have fairly extensive computer science and robotics programs. Along with other prestigious schools, I just thought of something while I was reading this. I was thinking about how there's like one other affair left. Susie would be Susan. Okay, so Susan Ford is the last affair. I'm sorry, I had a little moment there. Science programs. Along with other prestigious schools that haven't quite reached the notoriety of the Ivy League schools, some refer to it as Little Ivy. The college has embraced this, calling their newspaper the Herald, which is a combination of Hedera, the scientific name for Ivy, and Herald. Their website boasts that they have a historical technology museum on campus, including a still-functioning computer from the 1960s that takes up a full room. They also have a printing press that they use to print one special issue of the Herald each year. Okay, so let's check this out. Here we go. The Herald is the school newspaper of Mid-Eastern University. It appears to be available in your periodical archives. After a bit of research, you discovered its name is a combination of Hedera, the scientific name for Ivy, and Herald. Okay, so let's... Okay, where's it at? Let's try... Lucy Lang. Okay, the Herald story has has a story about their school's robotic team, Team Talonclaw. It lists 3 student members and talks a bit about each of their history, including interest in robots. The only one that catches your attention is Lucy Lang. She grew up in China as Ming Lang, but came to the U.S. specifically to attend university. She says she grew up around factory-scale machines that assemble products that would be shipped all over the world, and the moving parts and automation fascinated her. However, as she has progressed through her major, she's become obsessed with smaller and more powerful hydraulics, such as mechanisms that closes Talonclaw's weapon. In addition to robotics, she loves linguistics. One of her hobbies since coming to the state has been collecting accents. In her spare time, she practices not only removing any trace of her native inflection, but also quickly switching between multiple different regional accents. She feels her personal best is the Southern Belle, but her favorite is the Valley Girl due to its use in popular culture. The article has a picture, and it's now in your evidence. There we go. Awesome. It's hard to tell. I mean, she could be Roottree. So this is a photo of Lucy Lang, aka Lang Ming, with Talonclaw, the robot she worked on at Mid-Eastern University. You found it in the school newspaper. So Lang Ming. Okay, she's a college student. Don't know how we're going to find her mom, but we're going to try. But the sister was obsessed, she said, with the United States, and then she met Jerkwad and then was no longer interested in it. Okay, let's go back to woman listed simply as Ying Yu. So it doesn't list her last name, though. She appears to be in the family tree in Hongbo. Let's see. I know I found that name. That's what I was looking for. Okay, Lang Yanyu in China. The family name comes first, so Lang is her last name. Is a businesswoman currently running the Lang Thai Textile Company. She was recently listed in an article on a website written by and for women. The article, entitled Empowered, is about the recent rise of women entrepreneurs in China. The article states that due to her lack of brothers, she has a younger sister, Lang Yinyu, took over as CEO of her family's company in 1992, after her elderly uncle was deemed unfit to run the company due to mental deterioration. This was apparently an extremely controversial move amongst the company's employers, and some of them, the article does not state how many, quit and wrote a letter stating that she must have coerced him in his vulnerable state. Since then, the company has been performing well. Her nephew, who is currently her second in command, is expected to take over when she retires. In the meantime, the board's stance has been a twist on a popular proverb. The article roughly translates it as, someone that has proven they can do something well can do it 100 times well. An unproven leader can doom us all. The article also offhandedly mentions that Yan Yu was an early adapter of IVF and helped her sister have a child. There is an unsourced picture of Yu in the article. It says that it's from 1992. When she took over, she was 45 at the time. It has been added to your evidence. Well, it could have been IVF then, so she might not be. Okay, so a photo of Lang Yinyu from a recent article about the growth of female entrepreneurs in China. She runs a business with many textile factories, some manufactured packaging from American products. What would she be? I believe a CEO. don't have any other... No, I don't have any other photos of him. Okay, so we've gotten that one. I don't know. It's possible. It's hard to tell. I don't know. Any of them could be, to be honest. I got no clue who's a Rootree. And I'm almost positive he probably is, but it is hard to tell. Okay, so the final one is going to be that Susie Ford. Which is possible that's her. But I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so I did get some research from her. You know, we looked at the Hudson Wing. And the, what was it? The Grand Dwarf Dove, because we found it listed in the information. Let's see if we still have it. I might have to re-look it up. It's in this last one. Wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I've already read all this, so let's see if anything stands out. Let's look at the Hudson Wing again. Surprise her future husband. We don't have the name of her husband. Okay, let's try here and look up the Grand Dwarf. Yeah, I think that's what it was in Dove. Okay, Grand Dwarf Dove was a school for deaf near Butler and was regularly listed in articles with other local schools. The Butler County Times archives included what seems like an endless list of snow cancellations, extracurricular activities, and weekend events that began over 70 years ago and stretched until the last mention in 1990. Amongst the avalanche of useless information, you almost miraculously discover one useful article. Grand Dwarf Dove was at the center of a crime article from 1982. It seems that someone defaced the school and vehicles outside the brand new Hudson Wing of the school. There were multiple broken windows, and one of the teacher's cars was painted with profanities and accusations of infidelity. A few weeks later, a follow-up article provides more details. There was one arrest, Thomas Hughes, who was coincidentally a former student at the school. Apparently, the destruction came weeks after he married the school's newest teacher, Mrs. Hughes. She was not a teacher when he went. He graduated a few years earlier. According to the reporter's investigation, the police reports, trials, and restraining orders, Mr. Hughes convinced that he was not the father of Mrs. Hughes' current pregnancy. He was released on bail, and the schools agreed not to press criminal charges after an agreement was made to pay for the damages and for the couple to begin the divorce proceedings. It seems Thomas Hughes, Mrs. Hughes, and the Hudson Wing have all avoided further appearances in the Butler County Times. Okay, so let's look up Thomas Hughes. Nothing. I mean, you'd think his name would be important. You know, since he committed a crime. Oh, I'm already in it. Silly. I don't know if it would be in any of these. All right, well, he's not coming up. Let's try this again, but let's just do school, because it did change its name. Okay, nothing relevant there. maybe it... Let me see. There we go. Okay, we'll search it up. Grandorf School. There we go. Grandorf School for the Deaf has made a few odd appearances here and there in Butler County Times since 1990. It's not too many that you can't look at all of them. And so after scrolling through a few pages, you manage to find something incredibly useful in an article that isn't even focused on the school itself. Local students provide key evidence in scientific study. The article from March of this year, 1999, mentions that Ford sisters who attend public school in Butler County are one of only a handful of identical twins in the world who suffer from two different genetic issues. One of them has asthma and the other has a deadly peanut allergy. Their mother, a Mrs. Susie Ford, who is principal at the nearby Goldorf School for the Deaf, was originally contacted by researchers looking to identify if there were any sets of twins where one was born deaf and the other was not. While she didn't have any twins attending her school, she asked if her daughters Melissa and Heather could be useful, and it turns out they were. She says, they couldn't be more different. My youngest, we all call her that even though it's only about by 15 minutes, is shy but essentially has stopped running from the moment she learned to scamper. Asthma has kept her sister off the soccer field, but she's the definition of extrovert and is ever performing in a local production of Is There Life After High School later this year. The article includes a picture of the girls added to your evidence. This photo accompanied an article about a scientific study in Butler County Times. The Ford twins were used as part of a nationwide study of how allergies and other diseases affect twins differently. The twin on the left is holding an inhaler, and the twin on the right is holding an EpiPen. Okay, well that made it, relatively easy to figure out who's who. So what did she say? Which twin was... Okay, my youngest, we all call her that even though it's about 15 minutes, is shy and essentially hasn't stopped running from the moment she learned to scamper. So that's the one with the peanut allergy. I'm assuming the youngest would be Heather. I'm assuming she puts them in order that they were born in. But I'm not sure. Let's see if this is anything. Is There Life After High School is a musical. It's quite obscure, only appearing on Broadway for 17 performances after a preview period. Nowadays, it's mostly performed by smaller theater troupes, including high school drama clubs. If you couldn't tell by now, a game designer by the name of Jeremy Johnston was in a musical theater all 4 years of high school. There's one song from it that has somewhat surpassed the popularity of the rest of the musical, called The Kid Inside. If you'd like to listen to it, I recommend Barry Manilow's version. If you've heard the song before, it's likely that cover. The entire musical deals entirely with traumas and nostalgias that society collectively shares about their formative years, which feels appropriately oh my gosh. I cannot read. Which feels appropriately thematic for this game. I've always thought of it as somewhat ironic that they have high school theater clubs perform it, though. Anyways, the keyword in the Butler County Times article was local. The word was local. Okay, it seems like a high school in Butler County performed Is There Life After High School near the end of April 1994, or 1999. The cast list mentions some names, including a Heather Ford. Okay, so Heather Ford is the one that was in the high school play. So let's see, where's the... Okay, so Heather is the one with asthma. So she's the oldest. And it's Ford, right? I believe so, yep. There we go. 4 done. Booyah. Oh. There goes just... But now they just
Hey
both
there,
open my door.
it's us.
Rude.
So, I just have to say, the work you're doing here is fantastic.
So fantastic, in fact.
There goes Clark. Always the bad cop. Go ahead.
Well, our law firm, Ruby Legal Enterprises, is having trouble keeping up.
Well,
They're
sorry.
actually begging us to stop submitting new Roottrees. They said it's getting difficult to verify your progress.
Well, consider that a good thing. I told Clark you'd get results.
She says that like I didn't believe her. Regardless, the bad news is it's going to take 5 potential tree additions before anyone locks in from now on.
Great.
Good luck.
I mean,
And
there's
keep up
not
the
much
good
left,
work.
but... You couldn't give me any clues? Thanks a lot. I mean, there's not much left, so I mean, I've got to do these 2, so that would be 2. So 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the last 5. So, yeah, so let's go ahead. We're going to lock in Heather and... Oh, crud, I forgot her name now that they bothered me. Melissa. Okay, there's that one. I mean, yeah, they're probably... Let's just face it, they probably are. All right, so where did I find that one? Thomas Hughes. Okay, so that's her. I want to put all this stuff in before I forget. So that's was her spouse. Yeah, the Ford twins. So they had their mother's last name. They didn't take their father's. So that definitely played, because I guess he was accepting of it as well if he believed that they weren't his. Okay, so there's a bonus photo there as well. So, let's see. So let's go ahead. We're going to finish this one real quick, and then we will end, the episode. So, let's see here. I think... I'm pretty sure that's her. So it's, excuse me, last name is Ford. And it's Susie. Or Susan. Susan Ford. At least hopefully it's Susan and she doesn't go by something else. And she's a principal at the school. So that should be right. But we don't have an extra photo. At least not that I know of. I don't think we've run into another photo. But yeah, there we go. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and end it there. And in our next episode, we're going to finish the first known act of infidelity, which I'm pretty sure is with the patriarch himself, Elias, and it's with a woman named, I believe it was Beth. Yeah, so I mean, we filled out all of this. We just got to wait for these to finally lock in. Obviously, we need another photo here because we're missing another one of him. I'm thinking maybe I haven't looked up something or I missed something. I might have to kind of go back and see if I can locate that evidence so that we will have it at the start of the next one. But I hope you guys have been enjoying RoottreeMania. Please leave me a comment down below, leave me a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Bye.